Spring ball 22. Thank y'all for being here. Lot of energy to start spring. I think part of that is because winter workouts are over, and part of that's because the staff and the players had about 9 days off leading into this. So, in helmets only today, so you don't get a great evaluation. The focus early on, and really for the first 3 days, and kind of how we work this is it's kind of a 3 day install offensively. And then defensively, we've really backed down our install for the spring, and taking it a little slower as well. So our focus early on is going to be on fundamentals and really training how we want these guys to meet, how we want them to walk through, how we want them to practice as far as our standards are concerned. And new guys today is really, really fast. So if you're going to ask about some of the new guys, I'm not sure that any of them that are first-year players. I'll talk about a couple of the transfers, but first-year players, it was really fast for them today. Significant step up in competition, and they'll be better on Thursday, and they'll be even better on Saturday. But today it was really fast for them. Here's a few guys I thought stood out. I got a little more time to write names down, so I'll give you some accurate deals today. Starting with defense. So Dante and Taj Austin, I think, have had an exceptional offseason, and they're significantly stronger at the point of attack. And that showed today. I think it'll really show when we put pads on. Jalen Thornton. Jalen Thornton played his best football game in the bowl game against Minnesota, and I thought he followed that up with a sound day today. And then Lee Koba at Mike linebacker. I think he has a bright future. He runs. We needed speed at that spot, and he did some nice things here in day one. Jared Bartlett, it looks different when you have a chance to see him on Thursday. He's put on some significant weight. He's fundamentally, I thought he did some better things today. Lance Dixon, my expectation is for Lance Dixon to make a huge jump, going from year one to year two in the system. He's had a good offseason. And then Charles Woods. I think Charles Woods can be as good as any corner in our league. He had a nice play today on a pick. Offensively, two interior guys that stood out. James Gamitter I think he is continuing, and I think this gets lost sometimes. He hasn't played the position very long, and he missed a lot of time there in 2020 during the COVID season, and he welcomed a second child, but before that, he probably had his best offseason here, and I thought he was really sound today. His footwork's getting better, his body position's better. And then Jordan White, a guy that we need to make a jump, and he's capable of doing that. Thought he had a nice day. And then at running back, Tony Mathis is continued to do really well. Thought he finished the season well last year. He had as good offseason as anybody in our program, and he was good today. And then Justin Johnson, again, guy going from year one to year two, and you expect that. I talked about Lance Dixon, first-year guy. Justin Johnson, I think we could see the same kind of – he played well in the bowl game, and he looked really comfortable. Brian Palende, transfer, he's running with the ones because O'Loughlin's out right now. We brought him in to give us some help in the run game and be able to play in some 12 personnel and be able to relieve Mike when he gets tired. And he showed today what we've expected. He's going to be a guy that can help us. He made a couple nice plays in the pass game even. And then receiver, Bryce and Sam were really consistent. High expectations for them as we move through the spring. And then Preston Fox made a bunch of plays today. So Morgantown's own, he probably made as many catches today as anybody. And then special teams, Austin Brinkman, a long snapper. You don't get to hear his name a lot, but he had a really good day today. And then Casey Legg, we did a little challenge at the end, and he made a kick there to save the guys from running. So with that, I'll take some questions.
So now you talk about the 3-day install for offense. I mean, is the install radically different than what you guys were doing? Just little changes? Explain the install a little bit to us.
Yeah, so I would say that the run game, how we're installing, it's a little bit different. Schematically, there's only so many things you can do run game, so it's not drastically different. Now we fully expect to be improved in that, and I think in the run game, the thing for us, and I said this on a podcast I did yesterday, is for us up front, O-line wise, tight ends, running backs, is we didn't start the season off very well last year, but once we got bye week and beyond, we were able to run the ball successful against the teams that we probably should have, but we didn't run the ball versus some of the elite defenses. And for us to be successful and win those games versus the teams that are finishing above us in the league, we got to be able to run the ball versus really good, maybe even great defenses. And then the pass game, there's some things that Graham's teaching different. There's some different concepts. We're doing some things different in the protection game. And so how we're doing it, yes, it is different. Is it night and day? Probably not, Greg, but there are some significant differences.
It'd be safe to say right now, where you sit, the identity of this team would be offensive line, defensive line. Is that the leadership groups right there?
Well, I think it's too early. I think it's too early to say identity. I think we have a chance because we've got veterans and we have talent at those positions. I think if you look at our defensive line, I talked about Messidor being out, but we have extremely high expectations for him. I think Dante is going to be a much improved and a much more consistent player. And the reason I feel strongly about that because his approach to everyday work and his offseason is so much different than it has been in the past. And that's why it was a big push for why he came back, and he's followed through with that. And then Taj Austin is an upper tier player in our league. And then we're adding significant depth. Like Jordan Jefferson played well at the end of last year. Jalen Thornton is a guy. Sean Martin, he's going into year 3, and it's time to click, and I think it will. And he's playing with a lot more confidence. And so, and then Bartlett and Linnell Carr at the bandit position as well. So we have really high-end talent for our league, and we've got some depth. And then you flip it over offensively. On the offensive line, we return every starter. And, we've got 2 guys that earned freshman All-American status in Frazier and Milam. Frazier was second-team All-American, Walter Camp. And so those are really good players. Doug Nestor played his best football in his career at the end of last year. He's had a great offseason. I think that those guys lift together too, offensive line and defensive line. They really pushed each other in the offseason. But so I think it's this is we have talent there, we have experience, and we've got good leadership. And we got some competition where they can push. We're not as deep on the offensive line as we want to be, but we've got some guys there that have the ability for sure. And so identity, I don't know, but are those 2 of our stronger position groups without question?
Did you have you must have had a chat with Dante about whether he's going to come back or not at one time or another. How did you handle that? I mean, what was his decision making?
Yeah, so but what I try to do is I stay out of it, and here's all I do is present data. So I think our role as coaches is to present the data that we get. And so myself and our scouting department here and just through different connections in the National Football League, try to present the data as we're given it. Okay. I'm not involved in the NFL. I don't pretend to know how they're evaluating guys for the draft. But we can ask questions, and we know enough people attached to both the All-Star games and in the National Football League to give a pretty good representation of where we think he could potentially go. And so we had that discussion with Dante and his family and presented the information. And the other thing, too, is I think Dante feels really strongly about, and probably more so as he matures, about this being his home state and wanting to represent West Virginia and not pleased with how the season ended last year and not necessarily pleased with how the consistency of his play. Now, some of his play was at a really high level, and I think he feels like he has room to improve and have better video. And so that was some of the thought process. But as far as me, I just present data, and if he would have done something else, I've been fully supportive.
St. McLeod, what's the status with him?
Yeah, so he'll be out for the spring. A fortunate situation. He's gonna recover, and it's a little bit different style injury. So I can't come up here and tell you, hey, he's gonna be out 4 to 6 weeks or 3. I don't really know. It's not an injury that our people are dealing with very often. But he's doing well. Talked to him on Sunday. He's in good spirits. But he'll be out for the spring.
Behind him is that Naeem?
So Davis Mallinger is playing down there at Spear, and then Naeem's playing. And Naeem's got ability. He was hurt last year, missed most of the year with a lower leg injury, but he can run, and it's kind of time for him to make strides in our program. I think he can. And then we're playing Davis down there. Davis is athletic, and then we're going to have the ability to be big too and play Lance and Exery when he gets healthy out there to the field some as well. Tony?
Staying on the topic of injuries, Michael Laughlin, in a best-case scenario, when is he back out there?
Yeah, I think too early, Tony, to tell. You know, it's a repeat injury, and so that's significant. He's gone through the rehab before, so that's a positive. So he knows. He's more mature now too. I would confidently say he's ahead of schedule, and we expect him to be available and play when we kick that thing off 163 days from today. So
You feel good about the guys you have in the secondary in terms of interchanging them and flipping them around, particularly at safety?
yeah, we're working on that. So I think we got some guys that can do dual things. Like talking about Davis, we can play him at spear, then we can move him back and play him at our cat safety. We can play Aubrey and Hershey both at our free safety spot, and then we go to some of our nickel stuff. They can go to our rover position, so we're double training them there. Charles has the ability to play inside and outside depending on who we're playing against. Marcus Floyd, we're dual training him both at corner and at safety. I think he has the ability to do that. And I think when you see, because we're going to add multiple pieces in the secondary, the guys that we'll add through the portal, they'll have the opportunity to have some versatility as well.
Coach, what is your plan for being able to get a really good look at the quarterbacks, especially when you go to full unit work? Is it like one guy works with the ones one day? Do you split them up each day? What's your plan?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we got it's three, and a lot of times you get in these and it's two, but we have three, and we're going to go through the spring, and what we'll do is we'll rotate them. We did it by age initially, so Garrett went first today, and then Goose, and then Nico. And so rotate them through the day and try to get them really similar. You don't get exact reps, but you try to get them similar reps. And then Goose will turn around. He'll go first on Thursday, and Nico will go first on Saturday. And then let that go through a few. I don't want to sit here and tell you, hey, it's going to be two or three cycles of the install period. But we'll let that go. And then once we get into next week, we'll start doing some team. And then we'll start evaluating how they drive the football. You chart a lot of things: completion percentage, scoring is one of them, decision making is another. But they're all going to have equal reps and equal opportunity as we move through.
Running backs, you mentioned Mathis and Johnson, but Anderson, Dixon, obviously they're newer to the program.
I like the room. I really do. I think that's a question that we've been asked a lot. I feel, and this is not, we're going to miss Letty Brown. He was a very consistent player for us. But we've got, this is the best room we've had as far as just, top down talent-wise. I really like the leadership that Tony Mathis is showing. The game has really slowed down for him. He's calm. He feels really confident, not only running the football, but his route running is vastly improved. That was something he wasn't asked to do at Cedartown. And then his pass protection's better. And then Justin, I think getting to play some at the end of last year was beneficial to him. And then Jalen Anderson's extremely talented. He had a late start. He's still trying to play himself into position because he's a little heavy. But when y'all get a chance to see him on Thursday, it'll really be the first opportunity that y'all have got to see him is you're going to like. I mean, he's a natural runner. He looks effortless out there. He's got high football intelligence. He just got to get in shape. But he's going to have a bright future, and we really like his game. And then Linjay, he can run. He's fast. He's a home run hitter, and he's got to learn what our expectations are for our running backs here because they're a little bit different than what he was asked to do there. It was fast for him today, but not because of the speed of the game. He was just eager. He's really eager, and you like to see that because he really wanted to show what he could do. And but he can hit the home run. I think that all four of those guys give us a chance.
You got the full winter conditioning this year that you didn't get last year. Have you noticed the difference with them out
We
there?
look better. We really do. I think there's going to be some guys, like I talked about a few of them, like, Dante looks different. You look at Jared Bartlett, Lance Dixon; those guys look significantly different. If you go over and you'll look at Justin Johnson, if you look at some of those guys like a Jaquay Hubbard is a guy that'll stick out to you when you see him. He looks significantly different. So I think what it does is like those off-season workouts, and I think I talked about this at the spring press conference we did, is when you miss those, you don't get them back. You don't get them back. And so really what you're trying to do, it's really about two things. It's about discipline and mental toughness. Really, I mean, it's discipline and mental toughness. And then the weightlifting is all about strength. We're trying to get them stronger. And we do some things for speed, but it's really about getting our big guys stronger. And then when we get in those workout pieces is making sure we're disciplined and mentally tougher. And so what you see today is like, for instance, like, our guys overcame adversity. We try to put them in tough situations in practice, and they overcame adversity a lot better because we've been training them that way for 8 weeks. Mike, you were going to say?
Yeah, your bandit spot, it's kind of evolved since you've been here, and I think you said it was kind of, I don't know if you said now or never, but that was kind of the implication with Bartlett and Carr. What do you expect? What do you see out of them? And then also with the amount of combinations you can flex in with your defensive line and your safeties too. I don't want to say you're not relying upon it, but you do have options around having to have a bandit. How does that work? I know it's two different questions.
Yeah, well, I think our bandits got to be more productive. And I'm not saying anything in here that we wouldn't say to those guys. They've got to be more productive. They've shown, both of them have shown flashes. Both Jared and Linnell have shown some really strong flashes. I mean, you look at Jared versus Virginia Tech. But we've got to be more consistent. And for both those guys, it really starts fundamentally. We've got to do a better job of being efficient with our movements, our drops. Once we drop into pass coverage, it's got to be better. We've got to get to our run fits, and we just got to be more sound at that. It's not always about making the flash play. It's about being sound. They're the edge of the defense in a lot of ways, and so we got to be able to maintain our edges. Flexibility is something that we're really striving for. So as you've seen some of the pieces we're adding, is we want to have the ability to give multiple looks. And so we've got the bodies to play a 4-down front, which we did at times last year with 2 bigger ends. We got the ability to play a true 3-down front and play our bandit back off the ball. We've got the ability to go and play and go to a bigger, really more of a kind of a base 4-3 rather than basing out of our 4-2-5 because both Lance and Exery, now Exery's on miss a spring, but both Lance and Exery run extremely well. Like if you went out and we probably got if we were going to be in a foot race, those guys probably in the top 12 to 15 guys we have on our team as far as running. And so one of the things we really want to do is get bigger to the field. If you look at it, that's where we've gotten hurt running the football is to the field because our spears have been smaller bodies. And so we've got to do a better job of getting some bigger bodies out there, and that's something that we want to do. So that gives us another package. And then we've got the ability on 3rd down to get in some 5 DB packages. And y'all saw that last year where we moved and played Scotty Young some at a rover position, which we feel like we can get Aubrey and Hershey and maybe even Exery once he gets back to play some of that rover and give us the ability to show coverage and blitz for some different looks. So what we're trying to do is really shrink our package, what we're doing as far as the amount of coverages and fronts and blitzes, but do it out of multiple personnel packages.